Alrighty, well, thank you everyone for joining today's webinar about Teach Britannica. My name is Chris Heintz. I'm the director of the customer experience team here. I've put my contact information up on the screen, so if you have any questions, comments, feedback, anything after the fact here that you would like to ask or need support on, please feel free to reach out. I am more than happy to help. I'm also going to go ahead and put my email in the chat. So if you ever have any questions, anything that you need support with, I'm more than happy to help. So today we are going to focus on Teach Britannica. This is one of our newest resources here at Britannica Education. It has a lot of great classroom-focused resources designed to bridge the gap between Britannica content and classroom practice. So we did a quick intro here. I do want to speak just really quickly to Britannica School and show you some things that pair really well with Teach Britannica, and then we will jump into the Teach Britannica resource. So let me go ahead and jump into Britannica School. This may look familiar to you as a Britannica School user here. So this is the content in Britannica School that is available to you through BadgerLink. So you have access to all 4 tiers of Britannica School. That includes our early elementary, our elementary, middle, and high school content. And you can kind of run the gamut from the youngest emerging learners to your high school students who are doing advanced research. Britannica School has a little bit of something for everyone. Just to get a sense of who's in the room here, do you mind in the chat letting me know what grade level do you work with and how familiar are you with Britannica School? Okay, so we got some folks at the elementary, some pre-K. Okay, great. Awesome. All right. So for those of you who feel a little bit less comfortable with Britannica School, hopefully this is something, you'll take away something that you can use. Those of you that are more familiar, hopefully you'll see something that you haven't seen before and walk away with some new best practices here. So within Britannica School, really what I wanted to show you is how you can connect directly to Teach Britannica from the Britannica School platform. So when I go into any one of the levels here, and I'm going to click into early elementary because it seemed like there were a few uh, of you that are in kind of that pre-K through 2 space. The early elementary level, this has content that is really built for emerging readers. It is not a very text-heavy interface. We don't want to overwhelm students with text that they haven't learned to read yet. It's got some nice scaffolds in here as well, right? As we hover over our different topics, students can have that content read aloud to them.
Animals.
So it gives them that good sense of kind of what they're looking at here in the platform. But the other thing that I want to show you, and this is really, I think, the easiest way to connect to resources that are applicable to your situation and the students you work with. So whatever level of Britannica School I am in, you'll notice that we have this little blue thistle icon in the top right corner. Whenever I click on that, you'll see a drop down here. So this shows you all the Britannica resources that you have access to through BadgerLink. So that includes our Spanish resources, Escolar Moderna, as well as Merriam-Webster Unabridged. But up here at the top of the page, we have a link directly to Teach Britannica. So Teach Britannica is, again, our classroom-focused resource here, really designed to help support the work that you're doing in the classroom and tying into content from Britannica School. And so when I click on that link directly from Britannica School, it will take me to all of the resources that are aligned to Britannica School Early Elementary. Right? If I'm at the middle school level, it would take me to content that's aligned to Britannica School Middle. And so within Teach Britannica, these are all open access resources. You have access to all of this content here that you can implement in your classroom as you see fit. So the two that we're going to focus on today, the two resources, are these outer ones here. The first one are called lesson minis. And the cool thing here, lesson minis are fully built evidence-based lessons that are designed to be turnkey implemented in the classroom. So we provide you with everything you need on the Britannica side of things here. If I go to, let's say I want to read about animal homes in the ocean, right? So if I click on this icon here, it will take me to the lesson mini homepage where it will give me a quick overview of the lesson. So what are students going to encounter here? What kind of activities are they going to do? Then we provide some ideas for implementation, some key vocabulary and definitions that we are going to refer to in this lesson, and then finally some authentic learning extensions as well. So how can I extend learning beyond the lesson itself and really encourage students to further their study? Then down at the bottom of the page here, we have our activities. So the nice thing about these activities, each lesson mini has between 2 and 5. They're designed to be used either sequentially or independently. Really depends on your use case, what's going to work best for you and your students. And for each activity, we have kind of a quick pacing guide here. So some of them are less than 20 minutes, some are 20 to 30, some are 30 to 40, and some are 40 plus. But you'll have kind of your quick pacing guide, how we can expect students, how much time we can expect students to spend on this activity. Then we get into the real meat of the activity here, and that's our materials and resources. So this will take you to a page that has all of our materials. So this is what you're going to need in the classroom. And then resources are anything that's provided by Britannica. This includes links back to Britannica School articles. So right here, when I click on this link, you'll see that it takes me into the Britannica School article about the ocean. All of the resources, everything that's built into this lesson, you have access to. That includes our printability feature, our citation tool, right? It's never too early to teach students to use proper citation. You can increase or decrease the font as needed, and there is an English-Spanish toggle. It does look like my browser is frozen, so bear with me for 1 second here and I will reload. All right, let me try something new. Hold on. Okay. So let me just showcase. I don't know what happened to me there if I'm having some internet issues. But let's go ahead and we'll click on an article here. So just to showcase some of the article tools here, we do have a print feature you can share via Google Classroom or Microsoft Teams. Citation tool built into these articles as well. So there's 4 different styles of citation. Um, Adjust the font size up or down as needed. And then we do also have a translation feature here. So you can translate this into over 100 different languages using Google Translate. And the nice thing here is that if you hover over a paragraph, it will highlight that content and you'll get a pop-up with the original English text as well. The other thing I like to highlight on our early elementary articles is we do have an English-Spanish toggle. So this is a really cool function here where if I click from English to Spanish, all of the content on the page is now seamlessly transitioned into Spanish. The difference between this is that this is not machine translated like with the translation feature, but this is translated by our Spanish editorial team so that the content is written in native Spanish and really matches kind of what you would expect as a natural Spanish speaker. The other thing is that you can utilize the read aloud function in both English and Spanish. So if I go ahead and press play here,
Los anfibios son un tipo de animal.
so there's some cool kind of features in there where it will highlight each individual word with a very lifelike text to speech. So that's just some of the features there in the early elementary level. But again, when you click on an article directly from Teach Britannica, takes you right in there, gives you the content that you need, as well as any handouts, graphic organizers, question sets, anything that goes along with that is going to be accessible directly here. The next piece here is implementation. So this gives you kind of a semi-scripted way of incorporating the lesson here, and being able to kind of go through those different steps of how you're going to introduce each step and really provide this kind of nice implementation for your students. Then we have some suggestions for differentiation and variation. So we know that lessons are rarely ever one size fits all. So what are some suggestions for how I can differentiate or vary things up for student groups, different student abilities, different student interests, right? How can I find something that's going to work with students and their varying needs? And then finally, we have some suggestions here for collaborative teaching. So if I'm in a classroom where I have a co-teacher, how can I kind of divide those tasks up between teacher A and teacher B? So the really cool thing here with these lesson minis is that we are working to build a lot of them, right? There's a very long roadmap of content that our team is developing here. So when I look at the early elementary level, we have a lot of things that are going to align to what students are doing, right? Learning about animals, learning about historical figures, right? Starting to tie into STEM and history and civics, right? And really getting students kind of that baseline knowledge, but connects really well with early elementary. When I go into our upper levels here, so the elementary, middle, and high school, you'll see the content's kind of changed, right? In middle school, we have more media literacy, civics, and government. We have a really cool one here about exploring space with astronauts or exploring volcanoes with volcanologists. So there's really stuff that ties into student knowledge. We also have these ready for research lesson minis that are really built to teach and reinforce research skills as well. So it can give students that really solid basis of research and teach them how to be effective researchers. And then when I go into my high school content, you'll see that there is even more, again, focused on research, but we also have some lesson minis that are built around CTE, right? So getting students prepared for college and career, getting them to think about their future beyond high school. And so these lessons can be really powerful ways to incorporate that with your students as well. So I'm going to pause there for a second. Are there any questions about these lesson minis? Again, fully built evidence-based lessons, really just designed to be simply implemented in the classroom. Each one here also fully printable. So if I go ahead and print this here, a lot of folks have suggested using these as subplans, right? So having a lesson mini printed and available on their desk, in case of emergency, and being able to just really quickly assign that, knowing that it ties into Britannica content as well. So hearing no questions, reading no questions. Again, if you have any questions, please feel free to pop those in the chat. Um, and I'm going to jump into our next resource, which is graphic organizers. So these have been a very popular piece. Britannica has offered a really robust bank of graphic organizers through our asset library, and really has provided these as a nice, simple representation of key concepts. But these have always been very popular. I once did a session with a group of librarians in the Chicago area, and I made the mistake of showing graphic organizers first. This was one of the first trainings that I did as a Britannica representative. And I showed them the graphic organizers because I was like, this will be a great hook, right? This is a really cool, actionable, piece of material that they can use. And one of the librarians in the room, I don't think she heard a word I said for the rest of the session because all she did was point, click, and download every single graphic organizer to her device. But when she left, she said it was the best professional development she had ever been to. So these have always been very popular, but they're, again, very simple graphic organizers. I really like, and I'll showcase just a couple of these here. There are over 80 that you can use. You can also filter to see, and a lot of them are applicable, all across K through higher ed. But if you're looking particularly for early elementary, middle, high school content, you can filter to see which graphic organizers are really aligned with those levels. And as I scroll through any one of these, you can click on view. It'll open up as a PDF in a separate browser tab. I know we're coming up to Media Literacy Week here in a couple of weeks. I really like this evaluating resources graphic organizer. So this is one that as students are conducting research online, right, knowing that I think the number one concern that a lot of media specialists have is kids just Google everything, right? They can find any information out there. This is a resource that gets them to really evaluate those resources that they're coming across online, right? So trying to determine the authorship, the publishing body. Does this have a point of view or bias? Is the source creditable? Is it current? And getting them to think about that and going through this checklist. And then as they answer all those questions, getting them to determine, is this a good source of information or is this a resource that I should leave behind and not use? So it can be a really nice way to incorporate those media literacy skills with students. I also really like, because one of the key issues that I remember having with my students, so I was a high school history teacher, and one of the issues that I always had was students would rely on a single source, right? I would have them do research and they would pick one, they'd find one source, and that was their source, right? All of their information would come from that one website or that one magazine or that one book. And really getting them to use different sources sometimes was very difficult. So in this case, I might use this jigsaw puzzle graphic organizer. This is a really cool way to get students to start piecing things together. And you can do this simply by providing them with a set of resources, right? Maybe you curate some different articles, images, and videos from Britannica School, and you give it to them and you say, hey, here's a primary source, a secondary source, an image, and a video. And for each one of these, I want you to tell me, how did this help you to better understand your topic? Can also be a really cool group project, right? Give each student a different source and have them become the expert in that source, and then they piece their puzzle pieces together to see where do they agree, where do they disagree. So lots of really cool use cases, lots of really great graphic organizers here that I would encourage you to take a look at and utilize with your students as well. So before we wrap today, I do want to showcase just really quickly a couple other things here. And this is our top picks. So in the top left corner, you'll see this icon here where it says top picks. If you hover over that, it will open up this pop-up that has lots of great resources, again, for use in the classroom and to use with your students. So our team does work to kind of highlight recent events that we've had. So we hosted a webinar last month where we encourage kind of unlocking literacy, right? How can you utilize Britannica resources to teach literacy skills in the classroom? And so that's a great resource. We had a great panel discussion with some folks as well. So a really nice way to just kind of focus on those literacy skills in the classroom. The other thing I'll highlight here, we do have our scavenger hunts. So these are built at the elementary and middle school level, but it's a gamified scavenger hunt. It gives students the opportunity to earn badges as they uncover information within Britannica School. One of the things that I think I hear a lot from folks is simply teaching students how to use a research database can be a heavy lift, right? You can direct them to Britannica School, but getting them to find information in Britannica School can sometimes be tough. So that's a good way to really incorporate those skills as well. And then finally, I want to highlight our Free Resource Fridays. So this is a Pinterest board. So each Friday, our social media team highlights one resource from Britannica School, or sorry, from Teach Britannica, and they provide kind of a worked example, a use case for how to utilize that resource in the classroom. And then they've compiled all of our Free Resource Friday resources on this Pinterest board so that you can access all of this content and see kind of how that's been utilized in the classroom. So that takes me kind of to the end of our content for today. So again, a very quick dip into Teach Britannica and covering those first two resources. We will do a session next Tuesday as well. That will cover the remaining resources, so the instructional strategies and the bell ringers and exit tickets in Teach Britannica. So I will open it up, ask if there are any questions here from folks that are in the live session. All right. Well, hearing none, reading none, I'm going to go ahead and put my email in the chat again. So for those of you that were able to join the live session today, thank you very much. For those of you watching the recording, again, please feel free to reach out if you have any questions or need any support around Teach Britannica. So hope to see you all next week and in the next couple of Tuesdays. We've got every Tuesday in October here is kind of a lunch and learn with Britannica. So hope to hear from all of you again. But again, please let me know if you have any questions or need any additional support, and we will certainly be in touch. So thank you very much, and I hope you all have a great rest of your day.